Brandon Sanderson is your god. That's the title of a recent Wired article talking about Brandon Sanderson. Hello, YouTubes. I'm Nicholas W. Fuller. I'm a writer. I'm a gamer. Today, coming to you as a bit of a news reporter again, I gotta talk about this article because, wow, I mean, did Wired put out a hit piece on Brandon Sanderson? It's interesting. So let's talk about it. The author talks about in the beginning how last year, Brandon Sanderson had the Kickstarter, and I guess he started kind of formulating the idea for this article at that time. He was all excited to come to the office and talk about that Kickstarter and how'd he do it, why'd he do it, is Brandon Sanderson even a good writer? But then nobody at the Wired office knew who Brandon Sanderson was or what was going on. Okay, so he travels to Utah, where Sanderson is, and spends 5 months writing a fairly short article where most of it is just trashing Sanderson and others, and it's crazy. Okay, all right. So the writer does make some legitimate criticisms of Sando's writing style, but that's 2% of the article. He says, the lack of kind of depth and the simplicity in the writing is what Sanderson agrees with. At the sentence level, he's no gift to English prose. Okay, fair. The early books especially, my God, here's a sample sentence. It was going to be very bad this time. Another one. She felt a feeling of dread. Okay, fair. And this is the challenge though of being a writer, because his early works are 20 years old now. I mean, and he's gotten better, right? But this article writer isn't going to give him credit for that, kind of get judged on those early works. So, okay. All right. But this misses the forest that people love for the trees that writer word nerds obsess over, like this guy, he talks about how writers only can talk about words. And certainly that's the case, I guess, for this guy. He's really, wanting to kind of hone in on how fantasy is not as literary as other genres. Okay, cool. Anyway, but I think that I might go into that topic a little bit more on another video, like Sanderson's writing style, but I like it. And I think, again, it misses the forest for the trees. What fans really like is the world building, the magic system, the characters, and they don't really care that maybe it doesn't have the most thought-provoking metaphors, right? Okay, like I said, 2% of the article is about that. The rest of this is just mean. Is mean. By the third paragraph, this writer's calling him extremely Mormon, whatever that means. In fact, he says that in the subtitle, but he's also calling him a weirdo. He says Brandon Sanderson's a weirdo. Okay. I mean, listen, I liked, the play, The Book of Mormon. I get it. I think it's funny. But do we need to dunk on it? Because the thing is, Sanderson invited this guy into his home, right? Sanderson invited him into his home. He stayed at his home, talked to his wife, his kids, his team, his employees, fans at his con. This guy got lots of access, and he's just trashing Sanderson. When it would be one thing if the writer was trashing a Nazi, right? But Sanderson's not a Nazi. He's nice guy by all accounts. So I don't get it. And then calling him a weirdo, then says, quote, I find Sanderson depressingly, story-killingly lame. Okay, great. But the guy also goes on to say that Hugh Jackman's lame, so maybe that's good company, Maybe he thinks that lame is actually a compliment. Maybe the guy's just confused. Maybe that's it. What do you think? I don't know. He says, in front of Sanderson's wife, maybe nobody writes about you because you don't write very well. Again, all right, and Sanderson, I'm sure, has some thick skin on this, and he can kind of slough that off. But, bro, that's what his life is. That's his work and whatever. Not a very nice thing to say in front of his wife. But, all right. So, and the writer goes on, Sanderson's readers, loving Legion, care about something else. And goes on to talk about the Dragonsteel convention and how these fans love, the characters and stuff. But the way he talks about it, he says, as is typically the case of these things, there's a general air, warmish, body-odored, of unself-consciousness. And by my rough count, some 3/4 of the attendees are men, boys, blurring together in a mass of pale, fleshy nerdery and Sanderson-appropriate graphic tees. Men boys? What's a man boy? And the body ordered air. Just classic nerd dunkery, right? Like, so many people like to dunk on nerds. And he's done it by saying blurring together in a mass of pale, fleshy nerdery. Oh, he did it all in a literary way. Kudos to him. He's I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, it kind of goes on talking about how different people have come from like far for the convention, and they have the different like swords from some of Sanderson's work and whatever, and they all have names and sort of pokes fun at that. And like, it's just, you know, I mean, the guy says that he's a fan and he's like been reading fantasy and whatever for a while, but he's like dunking on people at conventions, and like, how are you a fan but also like poking fun at the fans at conventions? I don't get it. I love conventions, you know, but and I love seeing all the people cosplaying and all that sort of thing, and the enthusiasm and the excitement. Some of the nicest people you'll ever meet are at conventions. It's fun being around a bunch of like-minded people, and this guy's just, again, like poking fun about it and like talking about how it's all body odoured. Great. So, and the, you know, yeah, the dude even at one point comes after Brandon Sanderson's son a bit because he thinks Brandon's son puts too much salt on his food, and he says it makes him want to cry. Like, come on, dude. I mean, one, rude to go after the son. Like, who does that? You know, family should be off limits. But, you know, and over something so stupid, I don't know. Like, yeah. Ultimately, I think like the article kind of smacks a little bit of some jealousy, because there's definitely a lot of points where he's like, is Sanderson even a good writer and whatever? Like, whatever. The very first lines, though, are talking about how much money Sanderson makes, and later it says, in the 5 months or so it's taken me to sit down and write this magazine story, which is 4,000 words long, Sanderson has published 2 books. So I think, like, at a certain point, the dude's, like, jealous. And, like, maybe he thinks he's sort of punching up to Sanderson, but because it's on Wired, it feels a lot more like he's punching down at Sanderson and Sanderson's fans and, like, family and colleagues and, you know, I don't know, man. It's easy to dunk on nerds. Like, you know, people have been doing that forever. If you're a fantasy and a science fiction fan into games also, you've probably been called a nerd at some point. You know what it's like, right? I mean, I get it. And, you know, I mean, I think this was the easiest, laziest article this person could write. There's enough Sanderson fans that are going to take this rage bait, and they have since the article came out, that it's going to blow up the article. But then there's enough people like his colleagues at Wired that have never heard about Sanderson that they're going to be like, oh, yeah, look at that guy. That sort of thing. Okay, you know, I mean, in that regard, like, articles of success, you know, people are going to check it out and watch it and whatever. I just thought that we were kind of past the days of dunking on nerds. I really did. I don't know. I thought that, you know, nerd culture has kind of become so mainstream with things like the Marvel Cinematic Universe that, you know, maybe we were beyond that. But I guess, like, we just never will be. We just, you know, okay, fine. But you know what? I mean, I bet you know, like, it's the nerds that run things. In the end, it's the nerds that win. And Brando, you know, he said he wants to be the next Stan Lee. He said that 2022 was the year that Hollywood came knocking. I bet in like a week, Brandon Sanderson's not going to be thinking about this article. He's going to be thinking about, you know, next book that's coming out. He's going to be thinking about working on whatever Hollywood projects are going on. We don't really know exactly. I hope that's the case, because I think that he kind of deserves better. It just seems, I mean, again, I get that the guy needs to write an article that people are going to read, and like, okay, I feel like, I mean, if you find Sanderson so story killingly lame at the first dinner, then go home, right? Maybe don't spend 5 more months trying to figure out how to write an article. I don't know. But I mean, again, like, I kind of I'm more of the like point of view where, you know, I got that like mindset from Bambi. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, which is not necessarily the most effective way for me to get clicks and whatever on the internet, but I don't care. You know, I don't care. I'd rather be respectful to people and try to be nice. And I think Brandon's the same way. Um, and that doesn't mean I can't kind of critique this guy's work, especially when he's coming after Sanderson. But, and this is all just my opinion. Maybe you disagree. I mean, maybe you think the guy wrote an excellent article and had good points. I mean, all right. But, you know, just my take. I really like the article. If you want to read it, I'm not going to link it. I am going to link a video that Daniel B. Green did where he read the whole article and he had his take and whatnot, which I think is kind of a better way to experience the article. I'll put that in the description. If you want to support your favorite author, whether that's Brandon Sanderson or somewhere else, I'll put a link over that to the side. Thank you for watching. Again, I'm Nicholas W. Fuller. Please like and subscribe. I've got lots more videos in the pipe, lots more to talk about. And thank you.